All right.
All right, Friday night.
It is Friday night. Is this the first Friday night of the year for us?
Oh, it is.
It is the
Yeah,
first Friday night of the year. We did New Year's Eve last
we
week.
did New Year. Wait, we
That's right.
did do New Year's Eve, right?
This is the first Friday of the year for
Yeah,
us.
that's right. So that was 2021 though. So this is 2022. So
So I did count, John. We did 50 episodes
nice.
last year. So here's one of 50
We had
episode.
two, we had 2 weeks off.
Yep, that was it. That's pretty crazy when you think about it, especially like between the two of us, all the traveling and
Yeah,
racing and
yeah.
everything we ended up doing last year. The fact we still were able to get 50 in, it's pretty impressive. So
Well, shout out to
congratulations.
the wives for letting us do it Friday at 6 o'clock too.
I
So
know I haven't had a date in on Friday. Well, you're my date. You're my Friday night date. So no, it's good. It's actually nice. We're home now, and it's kind of interesting. Most Friday nights, this is Marie's bath time.
oh, okay.
Oh, you're going to talk to John. I'm going to go have a bath.
There you go.
So
That's good.
it actually works out really
But
well.
we were starting to do, and we haven't been very good about it. We were going to do Taco Tuesday,
Uh-huh.
and then we were like, "Why are we doing on Tuesday? We usually order out on Friday, so let's do Taco Tuesday on Friday." So we did that, but we haven't been consistent enough. So we're I don't know what our Friday is now, but it's wherever we want to go.
So you have Coffee Monday.
Yeah, we did Coffee Monday. That was fun.
So is that still an ongoing?
No, we got through most of the coffee houses in the region. I really enjoyed doing that, and I discovered some wonderful places for coffee. But now we are just buying our beans at different coffee places, so that's been fun.
It is fun, but it's kind of fun to get out and have coffee and do that. I've actually started, having some breakfast meetings for work
Oh,
now,
good.
and kind of a regular thing with some of the people in athletics
Hmm.
is a weekly breakfast, and
Yep.
that's actually been really fun just to get out. And I got to be honest with you, I find breakfast completely ridiculously priced everywhere. Like $14 for some eggs and bacon
Yeah, that's
is
right.
is ridiculous, but it's more about the company,
Yeah, and the coffee,
and the coffee.
refillable coffees. Yeah, no, I know. It's like pancakes. It's like, come on, pancakes
Do you
are
know how many pancakes I can make for $12?
that's right. They got to be good strawberries or something on them. So.
Exactly.
Well, we are in the new year, which
Yep.
means not only are people going for eating and different things, but now they are starting to get back into triathlon mindset for the year.
Yeah, I was reading an article today that I don't know where it was on maybe a slow twitch or whatever. It's like, okay, the triathlon season is starting. I'm like, really? Right. I still feel it's a little bit, I'm 3 months off of my first triathlon, and I'm still not in a structured training mode at all.
No.
And but it is time to really start to think about this thing. And I think most people have planned out their major races of the year and their
Mhm.
bigger races of the year, and are starting to think about taking the cobwebs off a little bit and getting back into training and getting back maybe into some structured training. And obviously everyone wants to do it in, well, it's not obvious, but everyone wants to do it to make themselves as fast as they possibly can and the best triathlete they possibly can in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of effort
Mhm.
and not get injured,
Yep.
right? And and there's many, we were just talking about off the air, rules. We kind of put in quotes, end quote, rules of progression, and how, what the science says behind this, and how we can actually get from where we are
Mhm.
to where we would like to be on a certain point in the year. It might not be the first race of the year, it might be the second race of the year, or whatever. And there's obviously ways to get there, and those, like you were saying, rules of progression. So John, you told me you took the liberty of writing down some of these rules.
Yeah, and they're interesting. As I started writing them down, they're not really physiologically or biomechanically based, and so I think there's some things that we can be doing right now that will help set up a successful year and ultimately a successful training program. So my first rule is time to check the gear.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's interesting. Like, I actually haven't done this yet. It's on my list to do, maybe even this weekend,
Yeah.
is to take my bike apart.
Oh, good. Okay.
And that's something I do pretty much every off season. I take every nut, bolt,
Yeah.
everything completely apart, clean it, re-grease it, re-torque everything. And, there's no pressure to do it right now. And so that's on the list. That's actually on my agenda for this weekend to do. So that's the big piece for me for gear, as far as checking things. I don't know what you.
Yeah, so I think number one is exactly what you're going to do. I'm going to be doing the same thing this weekend. I got a plan tomorrow is to go through all my tools and just organize my tools because, during the season, you travel or you change out your bike toolkit or you use something and you put it over here instead of over there. And my tools are a little bit scattered right now. So I'm going to take tomorrow and just organize all my bike tools. That's one of my things I'm going to do this weekend.
I think it's a great idea, because I think if you don't do these things now, then, it comes down to you start training more and more and you have less time to actually do those things.
And then the some other things I wrote down in terms of gear. So sticking with the bike, okay, because that's what we're talking tools. It's mostly tools for the bike. Tires. I'm going to check my tires out, make sure I've got, and you and I both use race tires. And then we have training tires. And I'm going to make sure I've got, good set of both and probably even have an extra pair of tires. I'm actually going to order probably an even wider tire for training. I'm going to try a 32.
Really?
To see how that plays out. But I got to inspect the tires and make sure the tires are ready for another season.
Yeah. And for me, we've talked about this before. I always race on new tires.
Yeah.
Like my A races of the year is always new tires. So I've already ordered tires. They're actually not here yet. I've ordered race tires for the year. And then those are like hand-me-downs. My race tires from last year are going to be my training tires for this year. And that's how I go. But I like over the break, I actually ordered 2 sets of racing tires, for my 2A races of the year.
That's interesting. I use a beefier tire for training because I hate flats and I still get them. But I don't use my old racing tires. I have actually gifted those out to some other people. So that's been a good way to.
I found the GP 5000s, they don't flat that often.
Okay, good.
That's my experience. When I had the Vittoria Corsa speeds, I couldn't use those for training. I would get flats all the time. And it's not that I don't get flats sometimes. I just don't, I would say it's like, maybe every 20 to 30 rides I might get a flat. And that doesn't bother me enough to warrant having an actual training tire. However, when I was in Tucson, I got like 3 flats because they're kind of notorious for the goat heads.
Yep.
And the funny part is I'm so lazy. I actually brought a set of training tires. I ordered them and then I didn't put them on. So I'm like, it'd be really nice to be on these nice tires as I do this ride. And it's on the bike path. I won't need them. And 3 flats later.
Yeah, and that's where you decide not to take your, extra CO2 cartridge or something, and all of a sudden you're walking your bike for a while. So all right, so I also have tubes down for those of us who still use tubes. I know there's a number of people who have switched over to tubeless. I can't do it yet, so I'm still on tubes. So I got to make sure I've got a good supply of tubes.
Yeah,
I'm stems and all that.
I'm the same as you. I've got, I don't know, probably have 10 pairs of racing tubes in the garage because when you get a good deal on them, you buy them, and I probably have similar for training tubes. You got to make sure now's the time to kind of stock up. It's not when you need them. Actually, for me, with that stuff is when I get a good deal, I'll buy like.
That's right.
I've been pretty lucky getting tubes, not race tubes, but training tubes for like $3 or $4 a tube.
Okay.
And usually buy them out of Europe somewhere, and when I can get a deal like that, get them all. And then the other one was like chains. I don't need a chain this year because I actually bought 3 last year just before everyone ran out of chains. So that's another one. I don't even know if you can get a chain right now, like a high-end like a Dura Ace chain or something like that. I know it was tough. It was really tough last year.
Yeah, so with the tubes, I buy both latex and butyl tubes,
Yeah.
and I try to make sure I get the right size, stem, or I make sure I go and check all my extenders to make, to match up what tube goes with which wheel,
Yep.
and if I've got the right extenders. And I also, I know we already mentioned this, but I go look at my toolkit to make sure the toolkit on the bike has all the supplies that I expect it to have. And we've done a, what's in my toolkit podcast before, but it's just so important that sometimes you forget, oh, I didn't put an extender in, or, didn't have, I used a CO2. This is the time to check it.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. I also wrote down tape. Make sure that your handlebar tape is still good. And if you need to upgrade that or change it or look for worn tape. It should be comfortable. On my bull horns, I like a nice squishy bar tape for that.
Mine's pretty soft. Mine's pretty squishy and soft on my on that too, because especially on a time trial bike, you're actually putting a lot of pressure
Yeah,
on that when you're not in your aero
that's it.
position, because the angle is
Mhm.
greater than on a road bike. Yeah.
Yeah, and when we're not wearing gloves, like you can wear during training, now you've got a
Yeah.
little bit more pressure. When we reviewed the paper on cycling injuries, hand numbness is one of them because you're pushing down on your hand so much. That's a road bike that they were looking at, but still same thing. So. And then this is the time to check out your cables and your brake pads.
Yeah. You want to know something interesting? On my time trial bike, it's 6 years old now.
Mm,
This March will be 6 years. It
mhm.
has a birthday. When I don't know if all bikes have a birthday. Mine does. Sitting here. I actually, and I'll I'll say a lot about an Argon 18 and its braking cables, or in the way they're run. I have not ever replaced my brake cables,
Wow, interesting.
and they've and I think part of it is because the brake on the Argon 18, the rear brake is high. It's right behind the seat stay.
Yeah.
And so when I used to, my last bike was a Trek, and the brakes were below the bottom bracket,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to replace the cable many times. Like
Okay.
the 3 years I had, I think I recabled it 3 times.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot to do with the manufacturer and how the brake cable is ran. If it's
Yeah.
kinked a lot, there's big angles in it.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, this bike, I've never had to replace those, but it's a good thing to look at. And obviously, if you don't have, if you have mechanical shifting,
Mm-hmm.
then it's time to look at changing those out as well, the cables, because honestly, when one goes, you never know. Like
Yeah.
you
Right.
don't. And you and I did a ride many years ago, my first century, and we both had a cable issue in the same
That's right. Yeah.
ride. Your front derailleur went,
That's right.
and then I think my rear derailleur went in the same ride.
Yeah.
And but here's the thing: is like, I think I was a month away from, both of us were a month away from Ironman Arizona, and it could have easily happened
Yeah. Right.
that day, right?
Yep.
Because it just happened. It was on the training ride,
Mm-hmm.
and so you're right. Now's a good time to do that too.
Yeah, and fortunately, the environment we live in here in Vegas, we don't get all the rain, water, or snow if people
Yeah.
are biking back east, and so they're a little bit more forgiving environment. But the heat does, ultimately wear down any of the plastics, and
The cable
uh,
housings for
that's
sure.
right. And so biking on roads in the summer, they can still pay a price. So I also
And
put
then
up. Oh, go ahead.
and the brake pads too. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm going to say this as well, is we don't tend to have let's say in Las Vegas, because we don't have a lot of technical descending.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
people's brake pads can tend to last a long time, and you can almost
That's true.
forget about them.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing that I like to do, and I do this before I race too, I don't know if you do, is I sandpaper mine.
Oh, no. Yeah.
And
Good.
so it's a night. What you want to do is look at your. So this is obviously if you don't have disc brakes,
Mm-hmm.
is just have a look at them. If there's a shine on them, just take a little bit of sandpaper and just rub them and get that shine off of them, and you'll be amazed at how much better they break.
Yeah.
And especially in the summer, I've noticed when they get hot here,
Mm-hmm.
and the little bit of braking you actually have to do here, it'll get a nice little shine on them. So it's something that you might want to look at.
Is that for disc brakes, you said, or for
No,
rim
not
brakes?
for disc brake, for rim
Okay.
brakes.
So how often do you change out your disc brake pads?
My disc brake pads
Yeah.
or my rim brake pads?
Your disc brake.
Okay. So I have disc brake on my road bike.
Mm-hmm.
I would say once a year.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, once a year.
Yeah.
And you could start to feel it. Like
Mhm.
when they start to go, they make it makes a little bit more noise.
Yeah.
Um, but I also found that if you keep your rotors really true,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to replace them as often.
Yeah. Well, I noticed you have that rotor straightening tool. I don't have that,
Yeah.
and I actually need to order some disc brake pads. So I gotta get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I actually just replaced the one right before I went to Tucson. I was getting a little low, and then I knew I was going to do Mount Limited, and there's some technical descending there,
Yeah.
and so I wanted to make sure I had.
That's always good to double check that.
Yeah.
All right. I also put down shoes. I'm
Running
gonna look
shoes
at
or
the
biking
shoes.
shoes?
Biking shoes. Yeah, we'll do running shoes too. But yeah, biking shoes. I think it's sometimes forgotten about to look at your bike shoes and make sure that the cleat's okay,
Yeah.
make sure that the insole's okay, make sure that you're not seeing the fabric or the upper sort of bleed over the insole as a sign of wear. And so just double check your bike shoes.
Yeah. Well, if you can see them at this time of year, because mine are all covered in neoprene for riding outside.
I've been riding
Hey,
inside.
did you see? Just I know we're just changing the topic, but I actually haven't bought them yet. I'm probably going. I just forgot about it till we were talking about it. That Adidas is has made an indoor specific bike shoe,
Oh no. Okay.
and it's not that expensive. It's like $100,
Yeah.
and but it's really light and airy and breathable, and but it has the 3-bolt pattern, so you can
Huh,
stick your.
okay.
Because that's one of the things is like I sweat a lot in the
Yeah.
indoors,
Yeah.
and my feet sometimes will be completely wet when I
Hmm.
finish on an indoor training, and I'm like, that can't be good time after time.
Right. Right.
With my really pretty expensive outdoor road shoes. I know that doesn't happen nearly as much outdoor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was thinking about buying a dedicated pair of indoor
Oh,
bike
that's
shoes.
good. No, I'll look into that too. Yeah, and even people should check their BOA, the lace
Yeah,
tightening if you have that, because the cable can come off the guide,
yeah.
and that's a pain in the neck. I had to replace one of my BOA tightening mechanisms. You can do it; it's not bad. So because the shoe is still good, but my BOA system, my cable broke, and just
That actually happened to me. I was in California training, and it broke. And I was really lucky. I took it to a bike shop, and I think it was like $15, and
yeah, yeah.
they
Okay.
installed it and everything. I didn't have to, because there's a special tool I think you
Yep,
need,
that's
right?
right. That's right.
And I don't have the tool here. Probably if it would have happened here, I would have
Mhm.
ordered the tool and done it myself. But I was like, well, for $15, just
Yeah.
do it.
All
Yeah.
right, so that's what I had on my bike, and there's other things you can do. And people, if you're not comfortable doing your, bike tune-up, take it to a bike shop and let them check everything, spokes, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, actually, that's a question about spokes, John. Do you true your own wheels?
uh, I do not. No, I do not. That wheels I don't mess with too much because I don't do enough of it,
Yeah.
and I'll take it to a bike shop and I'll use someone who does a lot of wheels.
So I was thinking about truing my wheels, and so I was reading about like how you true your wheels. I have a wheel truing stand, but
Yep.
I was mostly using it for my brake rotors. And so I come across this article. It's really funny, and it was this bike shop who would sell the truing tools, like the spoke tightening tool,
Yep.
and he'd sell them for a loss. He'd put them in a big jar,
Yeah.
right in the front, and they would be like 50 cents each.
I know why.
Because
Yeah,
everyone he sold, they would screw it up and they'd have to bring it in,
that's right.
and he'd make more money.
Yeah, that's right.
So I just thought that was a really clever.
Yeah, I would love to do some wheel builds, but if you don't practice enough, I mean, you've got to turn that nipple part of the I'm drawing a blank now, spoke just right so you're not twisting the spoke
Yeah.
because you may be twisting the spoke and not the actual nipple, and then as you start riding, it will change its tension, and there's a lot to it, to have a good
Plus,
true
plus
wheel.
you have arrow spokes
Yeah,
now,
that's right, right,
right? And so
right.
those all have to be aligned, plus the right tension. And so
Yep.
not only do you need a spoke wrench, you need a tension tool
Mhm.
that you can actually measure the
Yep.
tension as well. That's one. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, I have the truing stand now that I can actually look at it and say, okay, this wheel needs to be trued, and then take it in, get someone else to true it, and go from there.
Now, when I rode back in the 80s, there was a lot of, truing of wheels. There were aluminum rims.
Yeah.
Spokes were, I guess they were aluminum. I'm not even sure. And they'd come out of true a lot. My wheels now, they don't come out of true much at all.
No, I think I've done, maybe it's been a couple of years ago last time I had an
Yeah.
issue, and it may have been after I had my bike crash that I hurt my shoulder on. I think
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Right.
where I hit my front wheel really hard into the ground, and I
Yeah.
think that was the last time I actually had an issue,
Mm-hmm.
which makes sense if you take an impact.
Yeah, no, that's right. If you hit a big hole or something like that, that's a time to check the true. And the true is really two parts. One is the wobble of the wheel as you look at the wheel head on, and the other is the roundness of the
Yeah.
wheel.
Yeah.
You've got to account for both of those. And so it's not as simple as, oh, let's just get rid of the wobble. Oh, you can get rid of the wobble, but then you may have made it an egg shape.
Yeah. And really the only way to do it is to actually get a truing stand
That's right.
and to test it. And truing stands, they're not that expensive. Like I said, I use mine to check it, and I use mine to do my rotors, but I don't true my own.
Yeah. No, that's a good skill to have, and yeah, that'll be good. So if you learn it, then I'll bring my wheels over to you.
I was actually thinking about that. Like, if I actually learned it and did a really good job, I probably, with all my friends, probably could actually, it'd be a good little thing to do, right? Hey, come on over, hang out for the afternoon. We'll true wheels, have a cup of
Yeah.
coffee.
Yeah, then you gotta, just like your oil change, you gotta put a little sticker on the wheel, say, come back at these miles.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, that's what I had for bike. Do you have anything else on bike gear to check?
No, I think the only one I would say is, and this has happened to me in the past, is your CO2 regulator.
Oh, that's right.
Because if you don't use them for a while and they're in your bike, in your tool bag, and especially if you put other like gels or something in there, I've had them where I hadn't needed it for a while and then needed it, and it was all gunked up.
Yep.
It's not a bad thing to do, and it's kind of like wasteful. Just actually practice one.
Yeah.
Right, like actually put a CO2 on, crack it, do it, make sure it's actually functional, because you'd rather it's not be functional in your garage than when you're 30 miles away from your house.
That's a great point, because that is where our desert environment wreaks havoc on O-rings, anything rubber. And I did go to a race and I did have a regulator fail. And now you're like, well, now what do I do?
There's that tiny O-ring inside all of them that has to actually seat onto the stem of the valve. And I actually had the same thing as you. It's like I put it on and shot it, like, put the pressure on, and it shot the O-ring onto my, well, that doesn't work.
Yeah, right.
Right. And but it was the same thing. It'd been probably out in, for a few years in the desert in the back of my kit. So that's actually something to check. And then most manufacturers, you can actually just buy those and replace them.
Yeah.
They're like, usually it's just the cost of shipping.
Yeah.
On that one, it was actually a Silca, and I actually wrote them and they sent me a new one for free.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's high quality stuff. So it shouldn't happen. But yeah, and it's good to practice using one anyhow on your regulator, just so race day you know how to use it.
Yeah.
Because they're all a little bit different.
Yeah, actually, I've made sure now on both of my bikes I have the exact same model, exact same one. So now, like, you know what I mean? Because I used to have, this one was this one. Oh, then I found a new one. It was like this. So I just decided I want them both exactly the same.
I like it. All right, we're let's keep moving on gear. I still have run, but this one's just easy. Shoes and socks. Check your shoes and socks. Order your shoes. Have a couple shoes of the same model.
Yep.
If you have racing shoes, this is the time to look at your racing shoe. Get them all lined up so you have shoes for throughout the year.
Yep. The other thing that I don't do, that I always keep telling myself I should, maybe you'll inspire me to do this, is actually to put the elastic laces on now.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? Because I always race with elastic laces, and it's always like race week. Oh, I got to switch my laces and put elastic laces on. I should get used to that because that's what I'm going to race in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm lazy, right?
Yeah,
It's like, oh, that takes 5-10 minutes to actually switch out and put elastic laces in, and I just need to do it.
yeah.
So there's another one.
All right, swim is easy.
Swim's
Goggles.
easy.
Yeah, well, swim gear wise.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you said swimming was easy.
Make sure you've got your goggles.
Yep.
Again,
So once again, the time to order your race goggles is now, not the week before the race. It's time. And then we've talked about this before. Make sure you've got two different pairs of goggles for different, for cloudy conditions, sunny conditions. Yeah, absolutely. Now's the time to do that. And I'm kind of like you with this. I think we talked about before. I've got several pairs ready.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And oftentimes in the winter, you can actually get some good deals from
That's right.
some of the
Well,
triathlon
don't
companies.
store them in your car because,
Oh,
again, the hot environment will just wreak havoc on any rubber. So,
I don't know if we talked about this before, but I quit drinking a long time ago, and I have a wine cooler. So I put my
oh yeah, okay,
goggles in the wine cooler. Keep them. Yeah,
I like it.
they're at like 58 degrees. I think that's a white wine temperature.
All right. Oh, that's a good one. I haven't heard anyone do that before.
I was actually teasing. I was actually
Oh, okay.
because you're saying, oh, you don't want them in your car outside.
All right.
But it's like,
Well then,
maybe I should put my goggles in the wine cooler.
well, yeah, definitely had me. All right, now something on the serious note,
Yeah.
which is also lighthearted, is make sure your swimsuit's ready for the year. This is a good time to replace your swimsuit that you train in because they do wear out.
Yep.
And I have had the unfortunate experience of a swimsuit splitting while I was swimming.
And you don't want to be the guy or the girl that you have a see-through suit and nobody will tell
Yeah,
you because
that's right.
it's like an
That's
embarrassing
right.
thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is you're right. It's a good.
Order your swimsuit. You usually get about a season out of it, and
Yep.
just for practicing your swims.
Yep. Agreed.
Strength. Okay, this is the time to look at what you need in your home gym, and
Yep.
or if you need to upgrade your membership or renew your membership for whatever gym, is make sure that you have all the strength training gear that you need at home or have access to it.
Yep. No, I couldn't agree more. It's once again, this is a good time to actually get into. We talked about this, a few weeks ago, but get into your strength training because it's not like you're going to be sore for a race.
Yeah, right.
Right. Now's the time, in my opinion, to get a little bit sore. And because it doesn't matter, you can get a little sore and then still go out and do a bike ride, get a little sore, go for a swim. When we were away for the holidays, I didn't do any strength training, and we got back, and I got back into strength training, and I think I've only done 2 sessions. It was mostly upper body and core stuff, and then I went swimming. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
but it doesn't matter right now.
right.
Right? It's like, oh, it's okay. I can be sore for some training in the pool.
That's
It's
right.
okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're right. It's a good opportunity to kind of rethink that. And now you can actually get strength training equipment again. For a while there during COVID, you couldn't actually get any. But yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't recommend a set of
Yeah, that's nice.
TRX
Yeah.
attached to your ceiling right by.
Yeah.
So I do this sometimes. I'll be sitting around working, and then my computer will like, okay, I gotta like do something. Like it'll download something. I jump up, I
Oh, nice.
do a set, and
That's good. That's good.
these honestly, this is the name brand, the TRX. I got a really good deal on them, but it's like $100,
Oh,
and
that's
you
good.
can do so much stuff with these. There's cheap sets on Amazon you can get for like $40.
Okay.
But you can do like, it's amazing with the TRX system. Like, I wanted to do more lat work, and I was like, what could I do really good lat work? And I go on TRX lat. Like, there's so much information on the internet these days.
Yep.
And oh man, like, and it came up with a couple of good exercises for my lats, and I was like, okay, good. And it was just a little bit different, but I'm a big fan of TRX.
Well, we had a student do his thesis
Yep.
on TRX and muscle activity using the TRX for a push-up versus
Yep.
a push-up close chain where your hands are in contact with the ground. I mentioned it, but I can't remember the results entirely. But the idea is that doing a push-up on the TRX, it's much more, I guess you would say open chain, that you would use that
It is
phrase.
open chain. It is open
Okay.
chain. Yep.
And so it's more freely moving at the hands, which means you probably need a little bit more muscle to control the movement. So,
So one day, actually, we should probably get into the benefits of open chain versus closed
yeah,
chain
yeah,
in strength training.
yeah.
But yeah, and the good thing is with the TRX, you can then put your feet into the stirrups
Okay.
and then do closed chain push-ups as
Mhm.
well. And so yeah, so I couldn't recommend that enough. I think bang for your buck for a triathlete, something like a TRX system is great. I mean, I was looking around pretty much everything I could ever want, except for the only thing I don't have is a really nice pulley system
Mm.
that I'd really like, but they're so expensive,
Oh yeah.
like 5,000-6,000 bucks.
Wow.
I can't do that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was going to mention that our new sponsor is TRX. So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
After they
We don't
see
have
this,
no sponsor. That's good.
it's
All
so
right.
funny because those have probably been on like 200 podcasts,
Yeah,
and
right, right.
I probably sold a couple hundred of them just by
Product
the
product placement. I love
product
it.
placement. Exactly.
Okay, I have on here recovery equipment.
Hmm.
This is the time to plan out recovery. You and I talk a lot about the importance of recovery, and then that's the time to make sure you've got gear if you want gear. And
Yep.
there's lots of recovery gear that you can get into from
So, John, what was the
clothing.
number one recovery thing? Remember? It was sleep.
Oh yeah, that's a good
Right.
one. Yeah.
So, this is the time. Like,
Hmm.
I have been sleeping more in the last month.
Mm.
Like, I hate to admit it, but there's been days like for a triathlete, it's really sacrilege to say I've been waking up at 8 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like going to bed at 10, waking up at 8. I have my Aura ring and my Whoop strap and all that. And they're saying, oh my gosh, like you're sleeping 99%.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel the need right now to wake up at 6 in the morning and go for a run or I just, that's not, it's the time right now is the time to recover.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to say the number one thing for right now might actually be to prioritize sleep.
Yeah.
So not buying something for recovery, right?
Right.
But like actually taking advantage of that, and then taking advantage of the longer nights. Because one of the things that wakes you up is the light. And yeah, it was really interesting because in Tucson, because they're on the other side of the timeline, it wasn't getting light until just after 7.
Mm-hmm.
She was like 7:30, and I was sleeping really well there. But I think that's another thing we can do right now. Now, as far as the recovery stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I'm still a super big fan of the cheap stuff, and that is like a foam roller.
Yeah.
Foam rollers are next to nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can buy them at I don't know, wherever for like $20.
Yeah.
Get yourself a foam roller and understand how to use it. And we did a whole podcast on foam rolling, episode number I can't remember, and I think that's a good one. And then the pneumatic guns,
Yeah.
they're getting really quite reasonable. I will tell you though, when and if you buy one of those, you want to try and find one that's relatively quiet.
Okay, that's a good one.
Especially if you were living with other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first one I had sounded like a jigsaw, because it really kind of was a jigsaw.
Right. Right.
And but subsequently they've gotten quite quiet.
Oh, good. Yeah, because now some people are traveling with them.
Yep.
And even wearing them on the flight that you're taking if the flight's a long flight. So
Yep. Yep.
oh, I like that. Yeah, I'd look at that. Any type of compression gear or whatever you're interested in trying for recovery. And back to the sleep part, we haven't talked much about meditation, but you hear a lot about meditation to improve sleep. This is the time to try to figure all that out.
No, it's a great time to figure it out. And like once again, yeah, we haven't talked much about it. So John, I don't think we really talked much about like measuring, like if you measure like your heart rate all the time and look at that stuff and see what meditation can actually do for your heart rate.
Yeah,
Have you done that?
I have not. No.
So one of the things that I've been trying to do a little bit more of, especially when we swim at night. When I think we've talked about this, swimming at night is tough.
Mm-hmm.
You have the blue light. It's really bright in the pool.
Yeah.
My swim coach seems to always be like, at the end, we're doing 25s, right? And everyone wants to go hard on their 25s.
Yeah.
And then, okay, now you got to go home and go to bed.
Yeah.
And so I can actually, I track my heart rate like 24/7. And one of the things I see on those nights is my heart rate is elevated till like 1 or 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
And eventually it goes down. So what I'm trying to do now is to do some meditation, some deep breathing exercises on those nights when I go to bed, and see if I can get it to go down earlier. And there's evidence to support the fact that that'll actually help with your sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, workouts at night is not for me. I'm the same way. Is that once you get that heart rate up and you start working hard, it's hard to wind down and have a good night's sleep.
Yep.
All right, so now that's mostly the gear stuff I have. Any other things on gear to get ready right now?
Not, I don't know. Maybe like what you're going to race in. Actually, your race, it's really interesting. Race gear, like tops and bottoms, it's tough. It's really tough because it's got to be so particular the way it fits. What we really need to do, John, is we need to use our contacts at Cirque du Soleil and get one of their seamstresses or seamstressers or whatever they call it. I don't even know, to actually help us, because that material is the material they work with all the time.
Yeah.
And actually get them to custom fit our race gear.
That'd be interesting. Yeah. Bespoke. Yeah. Bespoke to what race gear.
Yeah. Because like even having like the a little gap up in your underneath, somewhere underneath your neck or in your arms or whatever, those are all aero penalties.
Yeah.
And but this is not something you can usually just you can't take these to a tailor usually and say, hey, I'd like you to take this in a little bit, because the material is so difficult to work with.
Right.
So yes, that's what that is a New Year's resolution for me, to work with. I've got several of my former students that work at Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, find out who does it. Actually, it's funny you say that, because I was trying to think of what race gear I'm going to use this year, and I haven't quite decided yet. So,
well, and here's the thing: is you don't know what the weather is going to be like at your first race.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so that's the only other one, was to kind of go through and make sure you know where that stuff is. And
I guess that's a good one, to just make sure all your race gear is ready from helmet on. So okay.
John, one other one with your helmet. It's not a bad time to look at changing out your helmet padding on the inside.
Good one. Yeah.
Right, because especially like your race helmet, like I usually I race in it and I forget about it. And then I get to the ready to the next race and I look and I'm like, oh man, those pads are not good. And because you just sweat so much, and then after the race you just stick it in the case, and next thing you know, it's like 2 or 3 weeks later, and it's
you got a cracked visor and padding that is salty and crusty, and that's a good one.
And let's get on a rant about visors and helmets and why they're so damn expensive too. I could buy a whole new helmet. It comes with 2 visors for like $300, but a visor is $80.
It's crazy. Yeah. I got a crack on mine, but I'm not willing to replace it.
Yeah. Well, because it's $80. We have the same helmet. I was hoping to find a Black Friday deal to get myself a visor a little cheaper, but I never did find one. So I got some scratches on mine as well. Because in the heat of the triathlon, when you take your helmet off, you're not thinking, oh, I got to protect my visor.
Oh, that's right. It just hits the ground and get going. And so, all right. So the point of training progression is use this time to progress, to get ready to train. Okay. So now you're going to sit down and plan out your year. And I just wrote down some notes on some things that I tried to do before really like laying out a plan. One is the obvious: identify your key races. So what are the races that you really want to hit hard? And then there's other races that you do that you're using as part of your training plan. But you really pick out, I don't know, how many races do you usually pick out? 2, maybe 3 races a year that you say?
3 at the most.
Yeah.
Because the truth of the matter is you cannot be at your peak that many times, and really it would be probably only 2 times a year. Where it'd be like a spring race and then maybe 2 fall races that are relatively close together, where you hold for maybe a month, right? And then, you take a little bit of a summer hiatus,
Mhm.
and I'm pretty good about in the summer, like usually a month I go away from structured training, and I'm
Okay.
going to just ride to have fun and
Yep.
run to have fun. I don't really, like kind of like right now, I'm not structured at all right now, and I won't be structured again for like a month in the summer. So
Mhm.
there'll be two distinct times. And I
Yep.
don't know, is that kind of similar to you?
Yep, that's about it. And then, you lay out, well, it's 12 weeks, 20 weeks, whatever it is, but you put them on the calendar. And yeah, maybe 3 races. I have found that as I've gotten older, it's harder to, put 2 races closer together. So I have to space them out a little bit.
But I'm thinking space it out like a month.
Oh yeah, no, that's perfect. But the danger of living in the Southwest is we can stretch out our season pretty
Yeah.
long. I mean, our first race will be in March and our last race may be December. Whereas, if we're back in the Northeast or up in Canada, your
Yeah.
season is much more abbreviated.
Yeah.
So
You're June through September,
yeah, that's right. Right.
in a lot of those places. No, you're absolutely right.
All right. So now, once you have your key races, the next thing I do is I identify those key life dates. So graduations, anniversaries, birthdays, reunions, vacations. Try to just lay it all out. We're not pro triathletes, so you've got to identify these times that you need to put put your family first, and
Yeah.
uh, and friends, whatever it is,
Yep.
and identify
No.
as best as you can those times that you won't be focused on training.
Yep. Yeah. I'm having a big 50th birthday party in at the end of May, and we're already trying to plan it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a triathlon birthday. It's going to be a relaxation birthday.
Sand Hollow is the 21st, so don't
Pardon
don't
me?
make it. Sand Hollow is the 21st, so don't make it on the 20th or the 22nd, or make it on the 22nd. I don't know.
Yeah, it depends who I want there. If I don't want any triathletes there, that's when you do it.
That's right. Oh, that's
But
good.
no, you're absolutely right. Build your calendar.
Hmm.
Especially for people that work, and maybe it's a busy time at work.
Yep.
We all have busy times at work, and plan those out as well. Like, especially if you're starting to come up with, like, you're getting more into the actual planning. Okay,
Hmm.
well, this is gonna be a busy time at work. I need a recovery week here,
Yep.
training, so I can pick up something at work. There's travel for work. Maybe for us, like we have a lot of conferences
Yep.
in the summer. I can start trying to plan out those conferences. Hopefully, those will be back this year.
Hmm.
And no, you're absolutely right. It's the time to do that
Yep.
as well.
That was next on my list is the work dates, where the time sinks are. If you're an accountant, it's April. If you're academics like us, we have some predictable times that we know are going to be busy. So, just build around it, and build that into your schedule. And I actually put some of those dates into my calendar so that I have them and I know that they're there. And that way I don't feel as bad if I have to, you know, back off of training because I know this is going to be a busy time of the year, and whatever time of the year it is, and then do what you can for training wise.
So the other thing I'm going to add is, as you build this out, and I know you mentioned like the A races, is being able to accept the fact that you're not 100% all the time. And if you
Hmm.
do this now, where you say, "Hey, this race, Sand Hollow in May,
Yep.
is it's just a fun race for me. It's a C race, right? Like if I end up doing it, it's going to be 3 weeks after the World Championship or 2 weeks after,
Hmm.
right? The Ironman World Championship." And it's like, if I go do that, I can't think I got to kill it.
That's not going to be a PR.
It's not going to be a PR, but I'm going to go because it's fun and
Yep.
my friends are there and I love the social part of it and
Hmm.
the atmosphere of it. But if you do that now, where you actually say, "Hey, this is a C race
Hmm.
for me," it's a lot easier than just having it as a race on your calendar.
That's right.
And because when you get into the heat of it and it's the week before and you say, "Oh man, if I do this and this, I could really," no, don't get into that mindset. Like
Hmm.
you can race, and John, you're the prototypical person to do this because you do it often, where you race when you're not 100%,
That's right. All right.
right? Because you enjoy the process.
That's right. You still give 100%. You give whatever you
Yeah.
have on that day.
On that day.
It may not be your peak, but it is what it is.
Yeah. 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 You cannot be it's not your A race, peak race, every race.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the next thing I like to do is identify times in each day that are easy to incorporate training. And you and I, although we haven't been doing as much of it, you've been doing more than I have, is commuting. There are some ways to make training part of your regular daily life, and maybe it's bike commuting or
Yeah,
whatever.
you know, the other one that I really like, and I did this more last year than I'd done it, well, maybe in the year before, was lunch runs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'd finished teaching. I think my class usually finished at like 12:45. So like from like 1 to 2, I'd go for a run and then
Right.
come back. And it's amazing when you come back after that run, how good you work for the next 2 or 3 hours,
Mm-hmm.
because you're out, you get all the sunshine,
Yeah.
you're away from everything. Like that's my good time to think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I fit it in. And sometimes it's only a half hour. I only got, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I have a meeting coming up at, this time or whatever. And, I got to be honest with you, like, not, if you stink a little bit, we've only been meeting
Yeah.
remotely.
it's
I
it's
come back to the office, it doesn't matter. I'm just sitting
it,
in my office by myself.
that has worked really well for me.
Yeah. Literally run in the door. Oh, I got a 9 a.m. meeting, run in the door. Okay, wipe the sweat off.
Yeah.
Helmet, you got the helmet in the hair.
Well, no, and someone scheduled a 9:30 meeting today with me, and it was 8:15, and I'm like, oh, I gotta get my bike ride in. Oh,
Yeah,
and I got on the bike by 8:25. I'm like, okay, 5 minutes is enough. Just
yeah. But we can do that now. And
yeah,
so that's definitely something that has
no,
been a positive in the pandemic, is that. But yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. And another thing we've talked about before is now's the time to kind of start those good habits and cornerstones.
that's right. Yep. Hmm.
Like we talked about the cornerstones. Like I have cornerstones where every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday is a swim.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
and I have a group. That's what time we swim.
Hmm.
If I don't go, I feel guilty
Yep.
because it's now ingrained in my life.
Hmm.
And I think you'd mentioned it earlier as well, that's something that you're starting to build up again,
Hmm.
is just the consistency of this
Yeah.
is when I do what I do.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. Right now I'm just doing my bike ride at the same time. I'm doing my swim roughly at the same time and run, just trying to build that into my routine so that it becomes a habit and it just becomes part of your lifestyle. But make it part of your lifestyle in a way that doesn't interfere
Yeah.
with your relationships. When we did a nice podcast on relationships, and that's one worth going and watching again.
Yep.
But your training program, yours and ours, our training program should not interfere with relationships with our spouse, our boyfriend, girlfriend, significant, whatever it is, or just friends. And it is, we aren't pro triathletes, but we all take it. A lot of us take it pretty seriously.
Yep.
But we need to build a training program that does not add more stress to someone else's life. All right, that's my list of what we need to do before we even lace up the shoes.
Man, we've almost spent an hour
I don't know.
just on that.
All right, so now I wrote down a few notes for now that we're going to write the training program. Now that we have all this other information, we have all our gear ready. This is an obvious one. You got to start with what are your goals? And you mentioned this already, is what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to complete a certain event? Are you trying to compete? Are you trying to go for PR? Whatever it is, but this is the time to really articulate what those goals are because that will drive what your training program needs to look like.
Yeah. And so this is the time, if you have a coach, have a conversation with your coach. And hopefully that conversation with your coach is good. And the only other thing I can say is, like, you need to be honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is where I am.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I want to be. And, and hopefully your coach and you can come up to this. Is it realistic?
Yeah.
Right? Because if where you're at is, you're at a 2 out of 10 and you want to be a 10 out of 10 in 12 weeks, that's not a realistic,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a realistic thing. And I think sometimes, especially right now in the off season, it's easy to have grandiose dreams.
Yeah.
And, for those of you that are self-coached, it's tough. It's really tough. And, for those of you that are coached, this is the time, and be completely honest with your coach about it. And if you've been working with them in the past, hopefully they're going to be honest with you and tell you, you know what, that actually is not possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Given the constraints of your life, where you are now, and where you want to be, there's too much risk And the risk is usually injury, burnout, failure. And so I think this is a really good opportunity for you to do that. But number one thing is you have to be honest with yourself.
That's right. And the goals don't always have to be time-based.
Nope.
Or even position-based. And it's not like you can't control who else is in the race. And so it's not like you can say, well, I'm going to go for, this place in this race, or what have you. But, it is, sometimes your goals are much more, altruistic, and you're trying to, achieve something that isn't always measurable, but you can still articulate. I think one of a goal that we've talked about in our household here is just be able to finish an Ironman and feel okay. That's not a bad goal.
I think that's it. Well, and if I was your coach, I'd say that's impossible.
It is a long day.
Because, well, no, I wouldn't say it's impossible. That means you didn't try hard enough on the day.
Yeah. Well, but again, it depends on what your goal is, because if you do want to cross that finish line and feel like, you are, that you're not fresh, but you didn't have to crawl across the finish line.
Fair enough. Yeah. Cause I can't imagine anyone ever being fresh.
Yeah, right.
After they finish that day. Yeah, and you're fresh as a daisy, and you want to go for a jog later that night. No, that's that's not the thing. But no, you're absolutely right.
And goals come in all shapes and sizes, and they don't always have to be time-based or position-based. And I really actually discourage people from saying, well, my goal is to beat so-and-so, because you can't gauge what you're doing on someone else. Yeah, okay, we're all competitive. We all try to, okay, this is where I'm going to try to be. But at the end of the day, you can't measure your success on what happened to somebody else, because you have no idea where they're at.
So I always think of it like this. It's like, okay, if let's say, John, I want to beat you at our next race. How do I know? How do I know that you didn't like, I don't know, we'll say something crazy, rupture your hamstring 8 weeks ago.
Yep.
And you're just barely getting back to it. And oh man, I beat John Mercer this weekend. Look how good I am. Well, John was out for 6 out of the last 8 weeks. And he went into this just trying to complete it. He's rehabbing. So my self-worth shouldn't be off of something that I don't know.
That's right.
Right. Or on the other hand, hey, John had an unbelievable build. He was injury-free for a year.
Yep.
He did this, he did all these things right. He incorporated his strength training. He was on the ball all spring. And now I'm the one that kind of was up and down.
Yep.
Right. And then I get to the race and, oh, John smashed me. I only had what I had. Right. Yeah. I had life issues that got in the way. And that doesn't devalue the fact that I got to the race. I finished the race, but that's a hard pill to swallow. And it's personally taken me many years of racing to get to that point. But I'm there. I think I'm there now, and it's a lot healthier place, to be.
And there's nothing wrong with competitiveness and trying to, show up and total start line with some other folks and really try to, to race. But at the same time, at the end of the day, you can't measure your success based upon what someone else is doing. And I always look at that, I call that triathlon maturity, is that as you get further along, you realize that it's really a battle against yourself. And maybe someone's going to help push you to be a little bit faster. And then you cross that finish line, whatever place it is, and you feel, you've accomplished. And you and I both, and for the record, you've beaten me several times. So
you beat me too. We've been both sides of that coin.
And we've had races where we've had really great races, but our position, it didn't even factor into the feeling of that race. It didn't even matter, what position we had. But we've had those experiences where it was just really, really a good solid effort, and that's a good feeling.
So, John, one of the things that I really think that people could utilize, and especially if you're a USAT member, is utilize the USAT point system.
Yeah.
Right? Because that takes everyone else out of the equation. Right? It's actually one of the things that I like the most is I can finish 7th, 10th, 15th, or whatever. If I go in and I look at the USAT points, and like, okay, like on that race as a whole,
Yep.
This is how I did. And it's actually, maybe one day we'll do it is we'll bring up our USAT points. But, we talked about it on our podcast last night where I was. So like, when I started out racing, I think my first race was like in the 60s for
Yeah. Yeah.
USAT
Right.
points,
Right.
right? And in the last couple of years, it's been like high 90s, low hundreds. And there
Mm-hmm.
was a rise. It was like 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And then I finally got into some hundreds.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me shows the progress.
Mm-hmm.
Not that when, because there was times when I was like getting 70 points and winning my age group.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Like, well, nobody showed up. Like it
Yeah.
was, what difference does that make?
Mm-hmm.
And and I think that for those people that don't know that's a thing, the USAT ranks every person at every race,
Yeah.
and there's a pretty sophisticated algorithm they use. And I know people complain about it, but for the most part, it's been, for me, been very accurate
Yeah.
in showing showing me throughout my career in triathlon where I am. So I would encourage people, maybe if something you could do in the off season is kind of look at where you've been the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I look at for other people as well, as like, hey, you are scoring in the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
and let's say low 80s. So maybe this year the goal is we're going to up your training,
Yeah.
and let's see if you can get to the high 80s.
Right. Right.
Right. Not I want to win this
Mm-hmm.
race. It's like, okay, you get to those high 80s and you finish third in your age group, you've made an improvement.
It's competitive. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I think that's a number that we can ultimately use.
Yeah,
I never thought of doing that.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I often forget about it, but I also check it at the same time, and that's partly why I love doing some races that are super competitive, because
Yeah.
that strengthens that USAT ranking and
Yeah.
actually, gives your score even more value. So, yeah, no, that's a great point.
Yeah.
All right, so now let's see, we're almost out of time, but now I'm at the progression part. And what I like to do is identify what's the biggest weeks I can hold, in terms of a load, whether it be swim, bike, or run, or a combination of, and what are my easy weeks? What do they look like? And then ultimately, can I build a sustainable program that will last 12 or 20 weeks, whatever the length of time is.
So John, I agree with you, but I think what we should do, I think we should table this one,
Yeah, I think
because I
so.
think that into program building, I think we
Hmm.
should do, maybe next week, let's tackle this, because
Okay.
there's a lot of stuff here
Yeah.
to unpack, if that's okay with you, because you were getting a little long, and honestly, I got probably an hour's worth of content that we
Yeah,
could
I know. We,
discuss on this area.
no, I would love that. And yeah, maybe we pull up Training Peaks again and walk through it and look at progressions and all that. So yeah, no, that's
Yeah, you don't want to see my training peaks right now that I've taken like this month basically off.
well,
but it was but it was purposeful.
well, my Training Peaks isn't finding my indoor ride. So
Oh, it's not.
no, I gotta fix the setting so it's picking it up. So
So there's one other thing I was going to ask you what you thought about this. So, and we can just put it in now. So one of the errors I'm seeing in Training Peaks, and that I'm trying to figure out how to figure out, is when you have a day that you rest,
hmm.
it's not a 0,
Yeah,
but the algorithm puts it as a 0,
yeah.
right? Now, 0 means I didn't get out of bed. Like if
Hmm.
I'm sick and I'm literally laying in bed all day, and maybe I walk around the house, that's a 0. But I never seem to have a 0 day. Like
Yeah, right.
I'll take Cosmo for a couple walks.
Yep.
I'm active. I'm doing stuff. I'm buzzing around the house. I'm cleaning the garage. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. That's not a 0.
No.
And I'm trying to figure out like how I can actually quantify
Mm.
that. And I wear my Garmin watch, and it tells me how many steps I do. So
Hmm.
I'm wondering if I can quantify those steps into like a walk,
Hmm.
like, and actually figure out a way to put that in. But that's something that I've been thinking about. I don't know if you've really considered that.
Oh, yes, but I mean, this is the holy grail, is trying to figure out your load outside of
Yeah.
your training session. This is that, I poked, holes in different training studies where they may do a, 3 day a week, 15-minute exercise session. And then they say this did or did not influence, whatever parameter they're looking at. And I've always said, well, 15 minutes
It's
out of
nothing.
24 hours, what do you do in the rest of the 24 hours, including sleep and what have you?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many more, potential impacts on whatever the measure is besides that brief intervention. And so, yeah, no, I think this is, I love the idea. It's the holy grail, though. It's how do you quantify, the stress in general and the
Yeah.
load that you're under.
So I know we talked about it before, but when I teach, especially teaching live, my heart rate's elevated almost the entire time.
Yeah,
Like
right.
I'm in zone one. Like I'm in aerobic training as
Mhm.
I'm standing in front of a class teaching. Like
Yeah,
there's stress there,
yeah, there is.
right? And then or if you've got a big meeting at work and you got to make a presentation or
Mhm.
whatever, like there is stress there. And like once again, like Aura Ring and Whoop and even the Garmin watches can start to calculate this stuff. The Apple Watch can calculate this.
Yeah,
But I think that that needs to be put into these algorithms for our training programs, and it's you're right, it's the holy grail, it's the missing
mhm.
link, as it were. But I think that I need to start figuring that out, because when you don't do, when you take a week off and your training, your training or your chronic training score
Yeah,
dips by like 50 points.
yeah, right.
It's like, well, I know I didn't lose 50 points worth of fitness.
That's adding stress right there.
It's adding stress. Like right now, I don't even want to look at my training,
I know.
right? Because I know where it's going to be. I'm going to be in the 70s,
Right.
and like at the end of the season, I was like at 120, 130 for my CTL,
Yeah,
and I know like the progress it's going to take to get it back, and it's
yeah,
okay. Like this was the plan,
that's right.
but it's still hard to look at, and I'm like, it's not like I did nothing.
No, right, right, right. No,
So
that's the funny part of these different programs. But I think with the wearable technology, that's going to change. In fact, I've got a pair of smart fabric shorts.
oh,
So
cool.
yeah, I've actually haven't used them yet, but I've got to try them out. But the whole idea is that you're wearing them and you're quantifying load during any activity that you're doing. And so yeah, it's we're getting there.
Yeah, we're absolutely getting there.
Oh, this is fun.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that was good. That was a good one. We didn't get where we wanted to get, but that's okay. Now we have a topic for next week,
Yeah.
which is fine.
Well, and I think maybe the message from this one is
Oh, sorry, that's me.
progression, training progression. There's a lot to it, a lot to even get to day one, and you can be doing some things even now that aren't stressful to you or taxing you physically, but you just get things set up so that when you do enter your training program, it's a little easier to manage and sustain it.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, good luck in the garage this weekend.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Perfect. And yeah, I hope you have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.
All right, sounds good. Talk soon.
Bye-bye.